One of the things that I learned early on as a hospice chaplain is that the patients that I see, uh, as far as mental acuity, will be at opposite ends of the spectrum. The only thing they have in common is that they're on hospice services. Some will engage in conversation. Their mental acuity is beyond mine, and we have a give and take, and I learn, and they learn, and it's a beautiful listening experience. And then I'll also have memory care patients who it's a chaplain's role to unlock childhood memories or distant memories. And one of the ways to do that scripturally is to pick a text that most of us have learned in childhood, for God so loved. And by doing that, the look of recognition is really gratifying. There's a childhood sense that we've all memorized that text at one point in our life. For God so loved. And one thing that's fun to do is we will use our own name. For God so loved John, he gave his only begotten Son, so whoever should believe in him will not perish. It's funny how I memorized the King James Version. For God so loved. And it's easy, since we've memorized that, to not only unlock childhood memories, but it's easy to lose the impact that verse, that text, that conversation had on Nicodemus when Jesus said it the first time. Because Jesus said, "For God so loved the world." Now uh, uh, that caught Nicodemus' attention. It had to, because Nicodemus was raised in an environment where "for God so loved Israel," for God so loved his chosen, and there was an ongoing debate sometimes that whether or not Gentiles even had souls worth saving. And so there's an environment, even though it's not in the Old Testament, but there's a spiritual environment. For God so loved Israel that he gave everything. And for Jesus to say, "For God so loved the world," was almost some sort of benign heresy. And I know that it must have gotten Nicodemus's attention at that point, more so than it gets my attention. I've memorized it. For God so loved the world. But that was an eye-opener for Nicodemus. For God so loved the world. For God so loved the people that we find most despicable, that he gave his only begotten Son. For God so loved the people that we've already discounted, that he gave his only begotten Son. And I'd like to somehow get back to the benign radicalism of that concept. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son. And the whosoever, again, an inclusive term that wasn't common for Nicodemus, that whosoever believes in him will not perish. The whosoever cut so many steps out that Nicodemus was raised with before you considered salvation. For God so loved the world that anybody, whosoever believed in him. And I'd like to pray through and understand the benign radicalism of that conversation Christ had with Nicodemus. Plus, it's fun to share with people who you see a light go on and they smile, and we have something to share and pray about. That in mind, let's pray. Father in heaven, I thank you that we are so loved that you gave everything for us. But Father, I pray that us becomes bigger than what we are comfortable with. That the radical love that you expressed over 2,000 years ago can become real in how we treat others as well. And I thank you for that privilege. In Jesus Christ's name we pray.